Just getting audio balanced up here a little bit. We wait for things to start up here.
Dream. Let me tell you this in all fairness, that we fearless. Hope you hear this. If you careless, we defeating everybody on your tier list. We got the fight in our heart, the light of the dark. We overcome a struggle till we stand tall. I mean the biggest comeback of all time, like I'm soldiers. Support for my team so we can't fall. See, legends never die, that's a fact. When I'm back against the wall, you know we gotta react. So we ready to go to war, about to even the score till you believe in it more. Then we launch a final attack. Let's go.
皆さんこんにちは。本日は LJL2020 サマースプリットウィーク5の模様をお届けいたします。そして本日 MC を務めさせていただきます。
Hello and welcome back, everyone. It's been a long time. Been about 2 weeks since we've returned to the LJL proper, but it is lovely to see you all again. I'm Dr. No, back at it for more LJL action. And we do, unfortunately, with still in regards to COVID and everything like that, we will be returning to the online format for week 5 and 6, which weeks, quote unquote, as week 5 will be today, all 8 games, and then week 6 will be tomorrow, the other 8 games. So a little bit of back-to-back LJL action coming at you this week, all online. All of that being said, we are kind of in this period of importance for the rest of this split. We've passed the halfway point. This is where, if you want to make your playoff spot, it's really going to come down to this. And while the upper end of the bracket is fairly safe, with V3, CGA, and Sengoku all holding fairly solid positions up there, most notably DFM currently at a 4-4 position. The ex-champions of the spring split and of both splits in 2019. Unfortunately, we're not able, or have kind of been struggling a little bit so far, and they have found themselves 4-4 in this split. While Hawks Gaming also has kind of been on the rise in the past few weeks. They had a rough start to the early ends of this split, but they were able to bounce back very well. They've kind of been finding their stride in a couple of their different comps and adjusting to the new waves of meta. Alongside Burning Core, who has was one of the more solid draft minds of the lower rung teams, and then AXZ still looking to get their first win off, while Rascal Jester has kind of been doing a little bit of the same, although since their win against AXZ, I believe 2 weeks ago, they did sort of start, from that win, they went 1-1 again, although their next matchup was rather rough. I believe they did go to DFM immediately following their win over AXZ. So while their chances are not dead, I do always like to see that sort of rising power coming out from teams, and when they're you see them, they take a couple losses, and then once they get a win, and once they figure out how to win, if they're on the rise, we'll need to keep an eye out. But for first up today, the stage is going to be set for AXZ versus Sengoku Gaming. We're going to have them coming up first in the day here. And for the overall standings, if you did not get to see my earlier piece talking about DFM and why we kind of have found them at the 4-4 mark a little bit lower than they might be expected to be, and it's been a bit of a surprising split so far. V3 has come out swinging hard. The last undefeated team of, I believe, all regions. C9 falling. I believe it was V5 in the LPL also falling. And then I can't remember the VCS team that was also running undefeated until recent. So V3, their last opportunity to make an undefeated run through the summer split, they hold that torch alone. But we will see how things go. I believe we do have plays of the week coming up here as well, so we'll get to look forward to those. If you guys also have been following my content, I also have put out a video for the top 5 plays of the week. So you already know my picks, and we likely already know who it was for from the past weeks. V3's Boogie having an insane play with, I believe it was Boogie, Paz, and Ace all having an amazing 3v5. But we'll see what the best play is up here. And this was one of those dangerous plays for Art. And really, this was one of those games that was very well played from Rascal Jester through the draft. And they were in fairly good control of this game. But if Art were to just get kind of blown up and knocked out of the fight too quickly there, would not have been a good look. Although Kog'Kog did also ult himself instead of Art, so maybe a little bit selfish with the ultimate there, as he does end up going down to the heroic entrance in the end anyway, but Art managing to live through all of it, not a bad deal. And this is also one of the other plays. This is a different play from Boogie that also made it into my top 5. Just a beautiful kick. This one was a little bit more interesting because this was V3. They were already kind of in a hard winning position at this point in the game. But the Flash R, it was these were both 2 kicks in the same game. He finds the Q here, follows it through, and just so fast, the flash just to make sure he's in absolute right position to get as much knock-up value as he can before his team is able to clean up on that fight. Not even the play that I thought would have been top 5 for the week. I know Boogie's almost pentakill, and he didn't quite secure it, but almost got a pentakill. I believe it was. I believe his top lane ended up getting one of the kills. I don't recall exactly, but it was rather close.
なかなかね我々がやるとこう分かっていてもできなかったりですとかっていうところ、その超絶反応のプレーが素晴らしかったですし、そして逆に今度はブギ選手がリーシンで相手の陣形を完全に崩壊させるエンゲージを決めたシーンというところでしたが、この2つとも非常に素晴らしいシーンでしたね。
はい、ありがとうございます。LJL 公式ツイッターにてノミネートされた動画がツイートされていますので、皆様いいねの方お願いいたします。
よろしくお願いいたします。
よろしくお願いいたします。
さあ、それでは改めまして本日の対戦スケジュール確認していきたいと思います。
And once we're going to look at the lineups here, this is a schedule, of course, for today. Coming up first, Sengoku versus AXZ. And this is actually sort of a great week if you are Sengoku, where these are two games that, at least on paper, and I don't like looking on paper all too often this split, as it has been quite the split of unexpected results. That said, Sengoku, this is a great week for them, is when you're tied with CGA and you really need to put a lead ahead of them so that you can start taking away ground. CGA did have an unfortunate loss to Burning Core earlier in the split, so they're still trying to fight back from that one. And Sengoku being able to pull a 2-0 lead away from this one, while CGA has a little bit tougher matchups ahead of them, while running up against V3 Esports later on today. Will be thoughts fresh on the minds of Sengoku. Well, I don't want to count AXZ out just yet, but AXZ has really kind of had... It almost feels a bit of struggle in the early ends of this split. AXZ has kind of been a little bit slower on the uptake of the overall meta shifts. Not necessarily in the champion pools, although they did have a couple of games with some rather questionable drafts. AXZ overall has kind of just had a little bit of struggle, particularly in the mid-game portion, where AXZ has very high first blood percent, very high first objective, and first turret, all respectively, where they're very good at getting out onto the map early. It's just about transitioning that lead that AXZ really seems to be struggling with. Most notably, even in their prior game, this split versus V3, they did have a bit of struggle. Had a bit of struggle dealing with a lot of the comps that V3 were able to offer. And in their most recent game, I really liked the comp that they had in mind going into things. It was sort of an early based comp, but they sort of ran into an issue where their top, mid, and bot were just not quite on the same page, and it was really hard for AXZ to get what they want going. They had an Aatrox top, I believe a Zoe mid, and an Ashe in the bot lane, which you sort of posture into a catch comp, but that's sort of something that AXZ seems to kind of struggle with at times, is really playing a catch comp to effectiveness when they posture very lazy. No, I don't want to say lazily, but they posture very relaxed. They are not as proactive as they need to be throughout the mid game, where they get a lot of early game presence, but then sort of dial it back throughout the rest of the split. And day one actually going to be subbing in here for the side of AXZ. I do believe replacing Unyan. We'll double check that in a moment, but that said, yes, was Unyan, and hopefully bringing up a newer player will give them, hopefully be able to give day one a bit of stage play experience. Of course, it is switching to the online format, so it's only so much that you're really seeing out of Unyan. or excuse me, out of day one, you don't get quite the same effect of being on the pro play stage. Even though there are no audiences, it's still, you know, you're walking out of the stage, you can see the other team, you're in that environment. But hopefully, to speak to day one's benefit, perhaps being able to play at an at-home environment, you're very comfortable with your surroundings, offers potentially equal benefit for day one here. Although it is somewhat of a notable record for this game is Sengoku does have actually a 9-0 record into AXZ over the course of, I believe, the last 3 years. And Sengoku, of course, will be looking to try and take that to a 10-0 record. But I'm hoping that we're going to kind of see AXZ in this 2-week time that they've done a lot of VOD review, they've sort of identified their weaknesses in the mid game, and perhaps this kind of a swap out will hopefully get some voice in the team so that throughout the mid game they'll be able to pick up the pace, to not just lay back and wait for things to happen. And in those moments, hopefully we'll be seeing AXZ be able to put up a bit of a performance here. That said, we're going to be going right into picks and bans here. Karma and Aphelios hitting the ban table right away. And Aphelios is likely one we're going to be seeing hit the ban table a lot in the coming weeks. Although other regions have kind of figured out ways to abuse Aphelios or to kind of invalidate the potential that Aphelios has. We haven't seen a whole lot of that from the LJL specifically. Still a lot of picks into Aphelios that just don't work out. Things like Camille, Wukong, where you're picking all of these melee characters into Aphelios and really feeding the monster that Aphelios postures himself to be, while Graves and Twisted Fate could be meeting the ban table alongside. And Nidalee is going to be the last one out. Now, the Nidalee ban is a little bit interesting. Hoglet hasn't been entirely known for his Nidalee play. That said, is one of those proactive early junglers that some junglers in the LJL are really fond of. And I'd be curious to see if AXZ are going to be giving priority over to the AD carry position to hopefully get day one a champion he really wants. Well, Orianna is banned out, so a couple of the priority picks in the hands of Sengoku. Things like Trundle, which we have seen have a lot of popularity recently, alongside Set, Ornn. Question is, what will Sengoku show with their first pickup here? And what can you really infer from the draft of AXZ, as Volibear is going to be locked in first, the blind-picked bear. Going to be entering in on the side of Sengoku, and the blind-picked bear is always a little bit of an interesting one. Is a little bit better when you don't have to deal with an Aphelios, when you're not running into Aphelios turrets and chakrams and all manner of things, but AXZ, a combo that they've tried before. They didn't have as much success on it, but locking in the Ashe Zoe to try and get things started up here. I do like the priority on the Ashe. I do think Ashe works well into Volibear, where if he's not going to get the engage that he wants, you want to make it as hard as possible for him to escape out. As the Jhin locks in here on the B2 pickup. Now this is a little bit bold. Ezreal actually going unpicked, unbanned this game. But this isn't to say that Jhin does not have his own little special place in the meta. Though the question is really if this comp is the one you're looking for, as Victor's also going to be locked in here. Sengoku possibly looking at trying out a couple of picks here to hopefully expand their repertoire going forward. Spirian's going to be locking himself in the Victor most likely, sending that into the mid lane, while Set going to be locked in here by AXZ. And I do like Set when you have characters like Zoe on your team, when you need somebody to really just posture defensively and to kind of absorb pressure. I think Set does a great job of that. The Facebreaker and the ultimate, just so much lockup potential that even if Sengoku were to draft into things like Wukong or any other heavy dive threats, AXZ kind of have that deterrent that you want onto my carries, I'm going to make it as hard as possible for you. And the space that you can buy with that is hopefully enough that Ash is going to be able to capitalize off that slow and keep moving them forward, while the Zyra is going to be banned out by AXZ here. And I like the idea of AXZ attacking the support pool here, as they have the flex opportunity to move move Set into the support lane if they so choose. But also removing a couple of zone control teamfight tools that Sengoku might be looking at. Victor kind of known for having the distortion field to be able to control advances, as well as Jin W, very good for long range catches, while also just making it a little bit difficult. You can land the snare from a Jin W, you can throw down the distortion field in front of the rest of the team, and hopefully try to cause a divide between the members, as Jay's gonna be banned away, removes that kind of poke option from AXZ. And I like the Gangplank ban. I wouldn't be surprised if that was something we would see Sengoku lock themselves with, but it does open you up to getting counterpicked, and if Oppaman doesn't feel comfortable with that, it's a fair choice to ban it away and say we don't want to have to deal with it more than we don't want to have to deal with a counterpick to it. And as Bard is going to be locked in, very common pairing alongside Ash, adds to that catch potential that AXZ has here. So if they're able to capitalize off of it, hopefully this is something that they've been practicing. As Sengoku locking it in the Thresh, who I have to imagine by now has quite a high support play ban rate, as Kennen is going to hit the ban field as well. Kennen going to be adding to the team fight potential of Sengoku. A little bit interesting to see the Jin locked in if they are going for that kind of team fight style. But it is going to be the Sylas that is locked in the end here, heading up towards the top side. As a last minute counter to the Kennen does offer you that counter ultimate. You're sort of saying anything you can do, I can do on a cooldown based off of the last time I stole your ult, as Sylas would like to say, but does still offer potential to Sylas to kind of dive forward. He won't have a lot of support going with him, and that is the danger of having a champion like Sylas when the rest of your comp doesn't really play with him. But you're hoping that stealing the Kennen ultimate is enough of a deterrent for Sengoku to try and get to Anssi, or if they are engaged on, perhaps you can send Unyan in, have him sort of take a dive as the rest of the team can regroup, reorganize, and then hopefully restart the fight outside of the Sylas ultimate. As the lineups are finally picked up and locked in here, we're looking at the whole roster here. When I'm looking at the comps on paper, I really do like what AXZ have kind of postured themselves into. I think they have a lot of good options available to them. I think the real standout is just the Sylas. But that being said, it doesn't... I understand what it's doing here. It does kind of counter the Kennen in a vacuum. My only worry is how much value is it getting outside of just the Kennen counter. But with AXZ still looking for their first win of the split, this would be the moment to take it, and taking a win off of Sengoku. If it doesn't end up winning AXZ, if AXZ aren't able to make playoffs off of this win, it really hurts Sengoku, and they cannot afford dropping games here. CGA have been keeping pace with them every step of the way, At this point, Sengoku, this is the do or die time, and this week is the last breather you really have until playoffs, and to lose it off of a couple off-meta picks would be a sad way to see things go.
この試合の鍵になっていくだろうという中で、ただ一方で意外だったのが、その下2つのスタッツ、これ10分時点、15分時点でどれだけチームとしてキルを生み出せているかというようなスタッツになるんですけど、
You can see from the stats here just what kind of just the kind of team difference that it really shows here. There's a reason that Sengoku have a 9-0 record against AXZ Gaming here.
そこからのスノーボールをどれだけ行えるかといったところが課題になってくる。一方、戦後ゲーミングとしてはその序盤のゴールドリードを得ている。
And I do think one of the other issues that has kind of been present with AXZ when you're looking at stats like this is really AXZ's inability or struggle to hold on to leads that they acquire throughout the early game. As well, it doesn't show up here. Their first bloods have been quite popular. They get quite a large number of first bloods in their games. It just has kind of come down to they get first blood, they get a couple first objectives, and they just have a struggle converting it. And while I don't want to say anything before it happens, one of the things we've been noticing as a trend among AXZ Gaming has kind of been objective fight disconnects, and a little bit of sort of the issue that Natsume, especially on the top side of things, really kind of struggled with the post early game lane swaps, where there was a number of times where he would be playing things like Aatrox, and AXZ's top lane would swap to bot. He would move around for the objectives, and he would get bullied and punished and just kind of run over in the side lanes by himself, where he's getting zoned away from just level upon level of EXP. And when AXZ are making that call to switch rotations around so that you can get things like Rift Herald, you can get things like, first Drake, and you're moving around all these members, what we're seeing on that stat screen is exactly that, is exactly how much they get punished in between these rotations. As we start things up here, fairly normal runes all the way across. Most notably, though, is I'm looking at Union in the top lane, who did opt in for the Fleet Footwork, which is a little bit of an off pick for Silas specifically. Although it's a little bit understandable, I would almost say I wouldn't even be surprised if he went something like Aftershock, as Union doesn't expect to be living too long in the later ends of this game. When he starts brawling, and he's the only one that can be brawling realistically, Hoglet can kind of help out, but then you risk having your backline not having any peel. I don't mind that he's taking a rune that is a little bit more focused towards his laning state and making sure he's able to get to that late game with items, as opposed to having the Conqueror to help out his later end team fighting. That said, everyone else with fairly standard runes. And I do kind of want to look at the Pyrian, Pyrian in the mid lane with the Victor, as Victor's not a champion that we've seen a whole lot. In pro play as of recent, it kind of takes a little bit, people kind of view Victor as a champion that takes a couple too many items to really get to that online state of the game. That being said, though, I do think he offers quite a bit of lane clear, which this comp kind of doesn't have outside of him. And I do think the Distortion Field is a very notable asset to kind of zone controlling a lot of these team fights. But Blank's gonna find Hoglet here. He will make the call to go all in onto him. He's not gonna quite land onto Hoglet, and the stun isn't either. But it will buy him enough space as Sengoku's bot lane posturing up just to try and help out on that one.
ボットレーンはそのバードが今 W スタートなレベル1から W スタート
And Blank did not back for Sweeper, so they won't be able to clear out that ward either. But Godido is actually very low in this lane here. Gonna eat another E. That'll be enough to force him to back off. He has a couple health chimes. A friendly drop off from his neighbor Corporal in the bot lane, but so far the early poke war is going in the favor of Pyrion. One thing I am a little bit worried about, although this thought might be held, is Blank's looking for an opportunity. He does have Flash available. So Godido will need to kind of be careful. He will eat a sleep as Blank's going to come in here. Not quite going to be able to get in range of that one. Godido wouldn't have really had finish potential even if he did follow that Q all the way through, as Hoglet's going to get a little bit of a trade onto Oppamin, but Unyon's not quite close enough to capitalize. Flash still available on Oppamin means he was in no real danger. But this is sort of what I was going to draw attention to, where Victor has to build the Hextech items, upgrade his modules until he can get towards the leveled up abilities. But he took very aggressive trades with Godido early on and left him completely manaless. While he did take a lot of Godido's HP, and they do kind of force him to use his teleport, not being able to back and buy the upgrades as early as possible hurts his lane clear or his trading, depending if he levels up Q or E first. But sort of sets him back a little bit, and he will need to kind of that will need to be considered if they want to take any early fights around these objectives. Likely won't be seeing too big of a scrap, but AXZ as a team has kind of been known to kind of take fights around objectives, even if they don't necessarily have business doing so. So, if Sengoku has sort of the metagame knowledge to kind of let a couple go, it won't be an issue, but we'll see how Sengoku decide to play things out. Oppamin is cresting into that level 6 and will be hopefully holding his ultimate for the next time, or for the fight around this Infernal Drake.
かなりこれ、エンティ選手のプレッシャーを受けているようですね。いや、多分先ほどからピリアン選手のハラスがかなり取ってます。
Another opportunity presents itself. Pyrion's going to go ahead and flash there. Did also have to cleanse out the sleep from Godido. And this is sort of the same situation I'm talking about, where there's no way that Pyrion has enough gold yet to take a back and buy his upgrade, but he's starting to run low on mana, and Godido can just kind of take a back here in relative security. Fortunately for them, though, it does look like Sengoku will be able to trade onto this Drake after seeing Hoglet in the mid lane. Blank has a little bit of a level advantage for now, and it doesn't seem like AXZ are quite ready to respond, so Sengoku actually first to the punch on this Drake while Hoglet is farming up. Will get spotted over the wall here. Blank knows he's coming. Enti's going to be sticking around here, has opportunity, walking right into his range. Hoglet seems to be wanting it, flays him away. The E is going to miss as he pulls a lantern to get his jungler out to safety. Bear on a rope will keep him safe, and that was sort of an interesting situation where both sides were really kind of baiting each other forward. And when the fight almost broke out, both of them kind of backed up and said, "Oh, hold on, do we really want this?" And neither team was really sure, but this is what Hoglet wants, a great opportunity. He might be able to face break both of them. Only pulling NT though, as the hook's gonna find his way back onto him. Not too worried, as not a whole lot of damage out of an early Jhin, especially Jhin with only a Doran's Blade to speak of for now. But things will continue farming as normal in the meantime, as Hoglet did, interestingly enough, go for Swifties right away, as his build path did not even stop for the jungle item, which is sort of a trade-off of his clear, but you get the move speed in between camps, but you don't do as much damage to the camps, and you don't keep as much sustain. You lose out on the talisman burn, so is it a little bit of an off call from Hoglet, but does kind of add to his gank potency. And as he's going to be cresting into that level 6, makes it that much less time to react to him getting in there, flash R, hopefully locking up a member or two. Hopefully for Pyrian's sake he will have cleanse up before that happens. But AXZ rotating 4 members strong up to this Rift Herald. Not a whole lot that Sengoku can really respond to, as you can see. NT and Yuto Tobayashi just going to spend their time on the bot lane.
これ戦後ゲーミングとしてはこのヘラルドに対して何かアクションを取ることはできないですか。
ちょっとボットのリコールタイミングがホグレス選手のガンクによって崩されてしまったので、
And it will be just sort of a slow early game for the most part. Both teams scaling sufficiently throughout the later ends of the game. Most notably for Pyrian and Garaidu is that the trades have kind of been working out to keep Pyrian away from his core upgrades. Which will mean Garaidu won't struggle too much in the lane clear department. As Unyan's thinking about opportunities on to Opperman. He does have to be a little bit careful here, but finds a stun right out of the E. Great find, kind of trying to keep him on a leash, but flashes forward with the R, goes flash for flash with Opperman. That will give him enough safety to clear out the lane and hopefully get a back off, but a flashless Opperman might be diveable. He's gonna pop the ulti early to try and clear out the wave. He's gonna see if Hoglet can go down in the meantime, but possibly a miscalculation on Opperman's end, as AXZ are gonna pick up first blood because of that. Hoglet not afraid to just run under turret. Once Opperman pops the ulti on the wave, he doesn't have it to keep him safe. Speaking of safe, NT's not quite in a safe position. He does have minions under turret now to try and get out here, but the arrow's gonna find his way onto Jin. Pops a cleanse just to get out of that one. Walks back up to pop the crit arrow, or pop the crit shot onto the turret, grab up a turret plate for himself. As Hoglet's looking for an opportunity. Flash R, there it is, as we called it. How long can he keep Pyrian locked up? No flash available, but the Chaos Storm is still doing a little bit of damage. Garaidu going to heal back up in time, so isn't too worried. Does have the Time Warp Tonic with the Corrupting Bot to help keep him alive there. And that is a clean gank onto Pyrian. AXZ showing their stride for what we know, getting these first early kills. As Hoglet just kind of casually walks up around. One thing a Distortion Field will not do is stop a flashing set right onto your faces. The dunk into Haymaker comes through, and a clean combo from Hoglet on the jungle set here. And this is sort of the AXZ we know, where like the early potency, pretty good. They usually end up with the first few couple kills. And things look good for AXZ now. My worry just tends back to what we were talking about earlier, where their mid to late game transition really starts to struggle. And when you're looking at just the lane states in general, there's almost a 30 CS advantage in the bot lane, about a 10 CS lead in the top lane and in the mid lane respectively. Hoglet's gonna find himself a slinking cannon trying to get away from this one. Unyan's not quite in E range, but how slow can he keep Opperman for long? Not enough. Well, Sengoku trade for the Drake on the bottom end of things. First two Drakes going over to them as Cloud Soul reaches the menu for today. And I do like that AXZ are giving a decent amount of attention towards his top side, hopefully trying to get Unyan online early enough so that he can pose a threat going forward into this mid game. But the bot lane is the one that I'm a little bit worried about for AXZ. The Rift Herald here, that's an extra stack of gold over to Unyan, getting him towards his core items, and most notably not going for the Proto Belt, is actually going for the Hextech GLP, and this is a little bit off meta for Silas specifically, but does add potential to both land the E chains on the abduct and abscond. It also kind of offers a great ability for Unyan to add to the catch potential moving forward in this game. you effectively have an Ash Volley at your command, and you can use that when it comes to slowing down the advances of Sengoku or chasing them off of a retreat. So I like the idea coming out from Unyan, that a little bit innovative, doesn't give you quite the same engage range as the extra Proto Belt dash gives you, but offers something else instead, and will hopefully play with the comp effectively enough. Only time will tell in that department, while for now, the CS lead in the mid lane is evening up, but in the top lane it is growing, offset by the kill that they were able to get in the top lane, as well as picking up the first turret there. So Unyan is not exactly too worried about a little 10 CS disadvantage there. But Sengoku just kind of enjoying the lull state for what it's worth, trying to pick up as much gold as possible. Wait, Torimiyashi picks up his first item in that Storm Razor slot. And I'm curious to see how the Jin does in this game. It's a little bit difficult for Jin to kind of posture in a lot of these games where the sort of issue that Jin has of a lot of his damage being a little bit more front-loaded is present in the face of tanky members like Mr. Hoglet here. Is going to go ahead and send a dunk over onto Enti. The beautiful face breaker, yoinking Enti right out of the air. Says Blast Cone not going to save you this time. As Unyan's going to go for an all-in onto Pyrion here. Sidesteps that one. Godaiu's going to come in. The sleep bubble's going to go wide, while Blank is going to try and trade over for the Rift Herald. And Hoglet, for now, has kind of been the man to look at for the early game of AXZ here, as they're still trying to buy as much time as they can. Pyrion, almost getting ganked again, has summoners this time, so isn't exactly worried. No ulti on Hoglet means he's likely going to be safe for now. We'll continue to try and enjoy a lull state for a little while longer. Now, sort of the issue that's coming up in the side of Sengoku is that you have an undesirable soul on your side. It is very good for Opperman and Blank to have a Cloud Soul in their inventory, but it doesn't always come up as one of these game-opening or game-ending souls that we commonly see, as opposed to things like Ocean Soul or Infernal Soul. And the reason that sort of becomes relevant is that a lot of these objectives have been coming off of them trading advantages elsewhere, where AXZ are finding kills and finding gold advantages through that, with knocking down the first turret on the top side, utilizing the Rift Herald effectively. Sengoku are not exactly in the same spot, where it's going to take a little while longer for that to really pay off. You do have two very nice Drakes to keep up, but Tempered Fate going to go wide there, as Sengoku will just continue to need to weather this storm for now, as their objectives seem to be their play route here. And we'll see Hoglet going for once again a dunk nowhere that Pyrion has left to go. Flash Cleanse, not going to be enough for that one. So they will trade for a turret onto the bottom side of things here. Rift Herald going to be picking up that amount of gold there, and AXZ are going to turn their attention towards the Cloud Drake here. With man advantage on their side and no teleport on Pyrion, they can pretty much safely take this one. Opperman's going to look to trade a turret on the other end of the map. But this is sort of the issue that we talked about earlier, where AXZ kind of now have the strength on their side, where they're the ones getting a lot of these early game advantages. About 1,000 gold lead could be a little bit better if the CS leads were the CS was a little bit more equaled out, but having a lead like this is no small feat. And this is AXZ actually holding on to the lead for as long as possible, and I really like what this could potentially mean for them going forward.
リアル選手がミッドレーンのところで、
はい。
すべての試合で、イーブンもしくはそ
We'll
れぞれ
just
有利
see
を
how
作って
long
押し込め
they're
ていきたい
able to hold on to
過
it,
去にもあったん
as
ですけど、
Sengoku is kind of known for being a killer in some of these team fights where they can just find one to open things up.
ここ本当にこの短い期間で大きく改善させてきてますね。
And I will say another thing that I definitely think is helping out Sengoku, but that thought will be held as the Bear's going to go all in onto Hoglet here. The Magical Journey is going to be getting Corporal and Hoglet away to safety there. Unyan is rotating around here now. Kadaidu is up towards the top side collecting a wave. He does have teleport available, but no fight looks like it's going to be breaking out just yet. Not too worried about having to expend that teleport at the moment, but one thing I was going to point out is that we are seeing Corporal on the Bard, and I don't believe we've seen it much before, but I really do enjoy seeing Corporal on a pick that can posture a little bit more defensively. One of the things that I've kind of criticized Corporal of in the past is he's somebody who can kind of get set on a play and get a little bit too tunneled on going for it, where sometimes it looks like there's communication issues on the team. Opperman gonna be communicated to safety to get away from Hoglet's gank there, but we've seen in the past when you give Corporal picks like Nautilus or other hard engaged champs, it doesn't always work out that he's capitalizing correctly, and with a pick like Bard, he can posture both defensively and offensively, which is really what you want to see. As here comes the curtain call, gonna be landing 1, landing 2, landing 3, but cancels it in the end to try and sidestep the ulti. Enti's the one who's gonna catch 2 in a row, followed soon by a sleep, as there's the W landed. Enti's gonna be able to get away from that one before he's in any real danger. Unyan off on a flank here, throws down the GLP, but nothing that can be taken up on. Can't quite take the engage there. You've already expended a couple ultimates, so AXZ will really need to work to find their fight out here. And it looks like Sengoku might have an idea that Unyan is here. Blank's going to be returning to farming his jungle creeps. Going to be trying to batter down a couple chickens. Hoglet wandering up here. He's seeing if he can bait them into Unyan's position here, as he's trying to hold on to as much ground as he can. Unyan waiting in the wings here. Opperman's going to spot him out on the sweeper lens there. Unyan not exactly playing that range the best of ability, and is spotted out, loses the opportunity at an all-in right there. And while we're looking at continuing forward for this one, 20 minutes have passed, and only 4 kills is not the worst position for Sengoku to be in, but my worry sort of becomes when is the time for Sengoku, as Jin already up to 2 items. Even with RFC and Stormrazor, he doesn't pose that big of a threat to people like Hoglet or Unyan, who are just gonna try and beat his face in, while they're gonna be doing the same onto Opperman. The dunk into abscond combo. Hoglet playing teams matches here, as a hook from Enti is gonna go just through Garaidu. Zanya's gonna keep him safe for now. Comes back with a paddle star to show good measure. And just one by one, the side lanes seem to be falling. AXZ coming back from this split and knowing how to attack these side lanes effectively, while Sengoku are the ones who seem to be playing the lackadaisy style and unable to make things happen. Period's gonna be taking this fight here. He says he wants all of it and more. Will he be able to catch up to Unyan in time? He will have an opportunity to cue the wave, but gets move speed off of that one. Curtain call gonna be trying to find Unyan, but making him sidestep is really the important part here, as the destruction wave is going to land on to Unyan there. Going to be picked up by Period. It's first blood on the board for Sengoku. And that will be Sengoku's opportunity at this Cloud Drake. And not a bad one to really be looking for. This will be closer to Soul Point, will allow Opperman an easier time to try and get a team fight going. But as it stands right now, it doesn't even feel like Sengoku have been looking for team fights all that often. It's been a lot more of Sengoku kind of just getting punished alone on the side lanes and not looking for the all-in 5v5 that you might expect.
ゲーム展開です。グローバルゴールド有利もアクセスが2000ゴールドの有利を生み出しています。さあ、どうでしょう。ゴールドの推移でも
And you can see here on the gold charts, it's kind of been the story of Sengoku that their early lane advantages are no longer holding up, as AXZ slowly but steadily are just trying to build up more and more of an advantage, while Sengoku might be looking for an opportunity here. This time Union's on the bot lane, no teleport available, so Blank's gonna take the time to all in here. Will he be able to get Hoglet down, get slept up, so gonna slow his advance for now, as Corporal's gonna give the magical journey off to safety. And that's going to be the difficulty of engaging on AXZ's comp here. You don't have an Ornn or the long-range engage tools that you might otherwise expect, but that gravity field is going to do a lot to give Garaidu a reason to run away. The dunk is going to be good, but will Hoglet live out for long? Oh! The Haymaker is actually going to just blow up Blank, and Hoglet is going to live out because of the shield. AXZ beautifully turning around that engage, and Sengoku losing a turret on the other end of the map. Little bit of disaster for Sengoku, as the gold lead is only going to grow further from here. We'll watch this one more time, as Sengoku just kind of struggling to get the full engage off that you're looking for. It starts off pretty good, as Garaidu's forced to flash away, just running full speed from the bear, but the rest of the team is just a little bit too far, as even Corporal is going to be able to flash away to safety in the very end, as Enti narrowly living out on that one. One more turret shot would have been curtains for him, but as it stands right now, Jin has not been the one pulling the curtains closed. He's still been kind of struggling to get a lot of value out of these fights. A lot of the damage is really being brought in by Pyrion. And when Oppaman is not able to get an ultimate off to really start the fights, when Blank is having to go all in just to land a stun that is negated by a magical journey moments later, sort of the mental image of what this fight should have been for Sengoku is just not coming to fruition. And if Sengoku really wants to kind of put their foot down and stop this gold bleeding, they're going to need to figure out exactly how. Taking defensive positions, controlling the vision war around this Baron would be a great way to try to bring AXZ into you, but Hoglet, looking around here, has flash. Thinking about a flank opportunity, but clearing the vision out is going to be most important, as Asleep's going to land his way onto the bear. Hoglet might be looking to take that one all the way in if he wants to go for the set in sec, as we commonly see it there. Hoglet stepping on a trap, gets hit by the Jin W. That's going to be enough for Sengoku to make a capitalization off of it. But Hoglet gonna burn the flash and use that Nimbus Cloak move speed to get away from that one, and time again, AXZ, their defensive play is being rewarded. And they are buying themselves all of the time in the world. Now this Cloud Drake is where I'm interested to see if this game will really be cracked open. While Sengoku are on soul point, this is not a soul worth dying for. You do not want to be throwing the game off of your potential at a Cloud Soul. While it does mean a lot for Oppaman and Blank, sure, it's not worth driving a 3k gold lead into a 6k gold lead. It is not worth driving a 3k gold lead into 6k and Baron, potentially, if AXZ are able to find a good win on the fight. But he's going to land on a Hoglet. Blank thinking about going for an engage, but the team's just a little bit too far for him to follow that one all the way through. Level disadvantage for the jungler of Sengoku means that Hoglet has opportunity to win out on a smite fight, adds a little bit bigger of a smite number to hopefully give them the opportunity here. While the vision war will continue, Sengoku trying to walk forward, but just dodging out on spell after spell of the Zoe. Just so much zone control coming out as a Paddlestar lands here. That's a good hook onto Hoglet. Will he be able to keep him locked up long enough? The box is going to go down. He's going to flash away. Nimbus Cloak's going to negate all the move speed negation from the box. Asperion's going to eat a huge chunk there. Arrow's going to go wide. Good sidestep from Yutora Mayashi. And now, this is where the fight starts to get scary. A lot of ultimates are burned, and what can Sengoku do to capitalize off of? And it looks like for now, they're going to make the call to pivot over to the Baron. AXZ picking up the Cloud Drake in exchange. Where will the contest come? You can see Opperman waiting in the wings. He has ultimate, and he's saying, start the Baron. If we get the fight, he has opportunity to pull this trigger. NT waiting in the wings for now, but they're gonna find Opperman out early. That's gonna be a huge Paddlestar onto him, as he might have just been forced out of this one. Sengoku backing away from the Baron, and not quite finding the opportunity they were looking for. A great tempered fade onto NT. They might be able to find something here as he's gonna get pulled in, locked up. Will he be able to get out in time? The dunk is going to be cleansed away, but it will lead him right onto NT, as that's going to be Pyrion going down on the other end of the map. The flash not getting him out to safety. AXZ may have just found themselves a fight win. Going to be using the Wolves to tank out on that Silas E, but then ends up shooting the Wolf in the face for good measure. While Blank and Yutora Mayashi are the only two to have survived on the side of Sengoku, AXZ punishing Sengoku for their missteps. And right now, with a 4K gold lead in favor of AXZ and a Baron prevented, things are only going from grim to worse for Sengoku, as they still have been struggling to find the proper engage here. We'll watch this one more time. Tempered Fate flies out, gets his way onto NT, and the dunk from, I believe, yeah, he dunks onto Pyrion, who does cleanse it out immediately, but Hoglet still goes forward with the ultimate to knock him down, while Blank and Opperman are on the opposite end of the fights, trying to get onto Garaidu, but maintains his posture. It's just a little bit too slippery. And the situation is looking grim. The benefit for Sengoku is that this is now the 3-item Jin. This is where Jin can start to get a little bit more scary. It's a lot easier for him to kite around fights. The multiple crits really add a huge punch to his damage, as well as Infinity Edge just being a huge spike to Jin's overall damage potential. But is it too little too late? Will Sengoku be able to utilize it effectively? While your frontline, your Volibear, is a full item down on Hoglet at this point. Will remain to be seen for now, but AXZ wandering up here, trying to just battle out on this Vision War. Cresting past the 30-minute mark, the AI has AXZ as their favorites, and with the way this game has been going so far, it's an understandable conclusion, as AXZ have just kind of felt like they are in full control of the tempo here. Did Sengoku kind of rest too much on their laurels, think that they could play whatever they want into AXZ? They come back from this 2-week break ready and willing to fight. And the one thing that I do kind of think is a little bit more speaking to AXZ's favor is that AXZ have not really needed to find a hard engage, but speaking of engage, Union's going to be going for a fight of his own onto Opperman. Going to get stunned up just a little bit too long, and that'll be enough for Opperman to just pop ulti and get away from that one. But what I was going to say is that AXZ, with the comp that they've kind of postured themselves into, is they don't need to be the ones initiating nearly anything. You have Garaidu throwing out spell upon spell, and you have such long-range engage options between the Bard ultimate and the Ashe ultimate that you never need to be the one making the first move that's too risky. You're always kind of just sending out You're kind of just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. And right now, Sengoku are the ones who are struggling to find something that sticks. As running this bear forward is not enough. It is not the engage tool that is going to break open the lines of axes. As he has to walk through sleep upon volley upon barred autos and Qs that will just kind of keep him locked up for way too long. But the Cloud Soul objective is on Sengoku's mind. They're looking for an opportunity onto it, burning that one down, but Unyon's on a great flank here. Sengoku are backing out towards the bottom side. Enti's going to try to clear away this ward. He will spot Unyon out. I don't know if you've seen him just yet. Yutorimiyashi's going to make the call. He's going to back away. Curtain call goes down. They're going to see what poke they can do. The Ashero's going to find him to cancel out on that one. As Sengoku's trying to make the look to turn. Hoglet finding a great E there. He's going to insect away one of the members of Sengoku. That's going to be Pyrion going down first in the beginning of this fight. Unyon just doing his best to try and play the ranges as effectively as he can. But Sengoku are already routed. That's a sleep, which will likely mean a dead Blank. As Thresh is going to take the fall for his sins as Blank flashes away. The chase is on from AXZ Gaming. As the W is going to give a little extra move speed to Yutorimiyashi, but that's going to be Sengoku routed once again. As Unyon plays a beautiful flank there, and AXZ are going to turn their attention back to this mid lane, collecting that wave possibly, but no, they say Baron is going to be first on their minds. 15 seconds on Pyrion's respawn and no teleport available. Sengoku not looking to contest this one. They will be able to posture back or move back over to the Cloud Drake and hopefully secure themselves the Cloud Soul, but it's coming to do or die time for Sengoku with a 6k gold advantage in AXZ's favor. AXZ are looking to put the pressure on. They should be able to burn this one down in time as 4 shots gonna come through. No, the Tempered Fate's gonna stall them out for a good while. That is gonna be Zoe picking up the Drake there, and Blank is going to be falling for his sins. With Blank down, and now Unyon's gonna find Enti wandering just a bit too far from home. These disconnected deaths are going to be just detrimental to Sengoku. AXZ may have just pulled out their first win against the second place team. As the mid turret falls, they'll be marching as 5. Lane clear from a victor or not, there is just not enough you can do without your front line here. It's going to take a miracle engage for Sengoku to hold on to this one as they're going to move now up to the top side. Looks like Hoglet wants to clear away a couple camps here, but this is sort of the fight that AXZ are looking for, where when Blank is just kind of in between his carries, he is not being the first to engage, and he's sort of torn. He has to cover for Unyon on the other end of the map, and well, you sort of have this awkward positioning from Sengoku where Opperman is on one side being like, I have a big ol' Silas here that wants to eat up all of our backline. And Blank is caught in the middle where he's like, I cannot tank for both sides at once. We can't move Opperman up to the front line to take the fight forward. AXZ pick apart another fight, 3-13. This is looking like AXZ may just find their first win of the split. But Sengoku aren't quite done yet. As they're looking to try and hold out as long as possible. And for AXZ, this would be quite the game to pull a win out of. And you're hoping that they're going to be able to... You're hoping that they're going to be able to get something going here. As a little bit of a replay here. They're going to be finding Hoglet out. The stun is good. Followed up by the Blank stun. This is just a dead Hoglet. That did happen in our off time as Sengoku we'll find one stray kill, but Baron is going to be shutting off here. The nice thing is that AXZ are sort of... You've given yourself enough of a gold breathing room that you can just kind of wait out until the next few objectives. Soul is still on the menu, and with 4 ults, or with 4 Cloud Drakes, you have all the room in the world to just be throwing out arrows and Tempered Fates as often as you please, which is what's netted AXZ nearly every catch so far in this game, while Sengoku have yet to find the 5v5 that Kennen wants, that Kyrian would enjoy on the Victor. We'll see what happens here for the rest of AXZ, or for the rest of Sengoku's game here. But we have a little bit of time left. Sengoku really need to figure out how they're going to start off these fights. And one thing that I am sort of, I do want to praise AXZ for is that this is sort of the one game that I felt like AXZ have really followed through on a lot of their early game potency, where they got a couple first bloods, and while they didn't necessarily try to snowball it into huge fight wins, they just kind of kept picking away at Sengoku. Every time there was an opening in their armor, AXZ, like a fencer, are just kind of striking and poking their way in, until you're looking at the gold advantage we see here. 40 minutes on the clock, and 30 seconds to the Cloud Drake as Sengoku take their reset. Benefit Yutoda Meyashi, you have 100% crit. This is the part of the game that Jin really loves, as well as completing the pen item on Pyrian. Hopefully means that you're going to be starting to belt out some of the damage that you really need to be in these fights. The sort of disadvantage is, of course, in the frontline positioning, but Gadaidu is going to be the target of a curtain call. Unya going to be able to tank up a couple of those shots, dodging out on the final shot there, but Day One is going to be soloing the Cloud Drake. That's going to be Cloud Soul over to AXZ Gaming for free, and the Baron is going to be the next target for the side of AXZ, as they're moving all of their vision and resources onto that side of the map. Now, where normally we would be talking about AXZ and kind of how they would be looking to win this game, I really want to start to be critical of Sengoku in this game, as Sengoku realistically, this game fell apart at the priority on the Volibear, which has just been able to find nigh on 0 value. And if this is a pick that you're dedicating your B1 pickup to, you would hope that it's showing up more than 0-2 and 2 by 40 minutes into the game, but they're starting up the Baron. Blank and the rest of Sengoku willing to put it all on the line here. You have all the teamfight tools available to you. Will you be able to do it where it counts, as AXZ are looking to find their way in? The arrow's going to find its way, but no punish opportunity, as Blank's just going to be forced to ult back over the wall, and that's an ultimate expended so quickly, while Anti's going to eat a paddle star that's going to chunk him out to about half HP, going down even further due to the burn. As Opperman is waiting around the corner, AXZ say, you can't do Baron anymore. They're going to take the mid lane priority, and then find their way back to the Baron. Sengoku has just finished all of their backs. Will they just be running back into things? Baron's just going to go down. Benefit to AXZ Gaming, where they just played. This is textbook for AXZ Gaming, is really what it is. Poking and prodding, just making it too difficult for Sengoku to really get anything done without a hard engaged champ on their side. I would have almost liked to have seen, instead of things like a Kennen, I would have loved to see possibly something come in like a Wukong, or any, you offer the same team fight style, but just give yourself that little bit extra engage potential, where a lot of times Kennen needs someone to set the stage for him to get him in to ult and do the damage he needs to, because you're not going to be able to just hard engage into an Ash arrow that's just going to stun you and your team fights over. Blank is looking for an opportunity. It's going to be turned around on him immediately as he's going to eat a Paddle Star, get chunked out to about half HP. And no Warmogs means it's going to take a little bit of time for him to be healing up.
素直にミッドとそしてトップの2プッシュにするようですね。まずはミッドにインヒビターを破壊しに行く。トッププレーのところ、いいタイミングですね。ちょっとずれてはいますけど、そうですね、アクシズとしては。
And as the story is being drawn to a close here, this is going to be the inhibitor going down as Union's going to be able to take the turret on the upside. They're going to start things up. That's going to be Blank going in deep, but Hoglit's just going to be able to dunk him further back. Opperman's going to find a huge ulti here, but what's the capitalization as Union is going to be on the other end of things, blown up by the Jhin, as that's going to be a 1-for-1 so far. Opperman having to trade his life top lane for top lane. While the rest of the fight is still going, this is going to be Torimiyashi finding a second one, wandering through here, as the Jin's going to be the one leading the story. So much damage. I believe that was 1,500 onto just that cannon creep. While Blank's going to be trying to find the fight onto Hoglet. Nowhere he can really go, but buying as much time as he can will allow the rest of Sengoku to siege up the mid lane. Did Sengoku just turn this one on its head? Remains to be seen. As that was a little bit more damage than Union was expecting, as he got popped open by the Jhin. That's sort of the potential of a later game Jhin when you're dealing with non-tanks. Bruisers do a decent job, but it's so easy for a champion like Jhin to kite out. That's going to be a lot of extra damage thrown down onto Corporal. He's going to throw out the ultimate to just buy extra time on the turrets. Hoglet's in a great position here. He will not be able to find the ultimate onto the member he wants, but NT's happy to take the sacrifice there. Clen's going to be burned down immediately. Torimiyashi may have just walked a little bit too close, and Day One's going to make the capitalization as Hoglet's going to flash forward there. That's going to be game, hopefully, for AXZ. That is only Opperman left to be able to make this fight happen. Blank, I believe, died while chasing Hoglet. And Opperman's the only remaining member. He has ultimate again and Proto Belt. How much time can you buy with that? As the waves are coming in here, no Baron means the waves will be burned down relatively quickly, but they're going to go all in onto Hoglet here. That's going to be enough to get him locked up. Dunks him back towards the fountain, just saying, get away from us while we knock down your base. And AXZ find their first win over Sengoku Gaming. Amazing stuff over to AXZ. You love to see that when coming out of a 2-week break. AXZ switch things up. You pull out Natsume, you add in Day One, and look at what it comes to net you. AXZ with their first win in the LJL Summer Split. Beautiful stuff to AXZ in being able to find that one there. And what a game. It may have taken a bit of time, but AXZ closing that one out in style. And for the side of Sengoku, hopefully this is a lesson that if you're not going to draft into these longer range engage champs, you risk falling to the longer range damage that Zoe seems to be offering. And Zoe has just been a menace on the LJL Rift, continuing her reign, as AXZ are going to use that to find their first win here. Going to be taking a quick break before we get into the next game. I'm going to be muting myself, going to refill on water and whatnot. Don't go anywhere. If you guys are enjoying the stream, feel free to drop a follow. Way I do things here is I'm going to try to cast all of the games tonight. As many as I humanly can get through. I am only a one-person operation, so it is a little bit difficult for me to get that done all 8 games in a row, but I promise I will be trying to offer as much insightful commentary as I can. I hope you guys are enjoying it so far. But that being said, I do really appreciate you guys tuning in. The follows are utmost appreciated as I am on my way to 50 followers, trying to get there as soon as possible. All of that being said, though, thank you guys again for tuning in. I'll be taking a break, and I'll see you all again soon.
がトップレーンの指示をしていたので、このタイミングから裏に
そうですね、ここはエグゾーストで対応はしたんですけど、
はい、
ここからの糸山選手のダメージが
凄まじいダメージ出てましたね。
6割飛んでますからね。しかもこれ4発目のダメージといったところ、分かってはいたん、いや見えてなかったですかね。ちょっと視界に入ってなかったようですね。これを食らってしまったと。ただホゲス選手がワーモグを買っていたので、
はい、ここから逃げ延びて、そこから集団戦を始めるというところまで行きました。なるほど。
レッドマンズプレート、そして水走りですか。まずはバードのアルティメットでタワー2つを無効化したと。ここ冷静でしたね。これもう回率がなくなったというところで、全部使わせて結構怖いですけど、4発目残ってましたからね。ただよく行きましたね、
よく正確な判断をしました。このプレーが決め手となって、アクシズとしては今シーズン初勝利になります。
しかも、
はい、
やりたいことすべてできた上での、
はい、
勝利ですから、ちょっとスーパーウィーク台風の目になるかもしれないですね。
そして勝利を挙げたチームがね、上位チームですから、はい、これは大きな大きな1勝となるでしょう。さあ、それでは勝利したアクシズのホグレット選手へのヒーローインタビューがございます。下月さん、お願いいたします。
はい、こちらアクシズのホグレット選手にお越しいただきました。よろしくお願いいたします。
잘 부탁드립니다.
まずは今シーズン初勝利ということでいかがですか？
먼저 이번 시즌 첫 승리예요. 기분이 어떠세요?
정말 기쁘고, 솔직히 한 번쯤은, 그러니까 한 번쯤이 아니라 지금부터는 계속 이길 거라고 생각하고 있었습니다.
本当に嬉しいです。正直、一度というか、今までで一勝は、できると思っていました。
なるほど、ありがとうございます。それでは勝ディオンさんお願いいたします。
はい、ホグレ選手、先ほどの試合、非常に素晴らしいパフォーマンスだったと思いますが、ただこれはその初めて見せたというよりかは、その春の形が戻ってきたなという印象もありますが、こう元の動きに戻ったというか、非常にいいパフォーマンス出たのは何が要因なんでしょう？
네, 오늘은 정말 그 훌륭한 퍼포먼스를 보여주셨는데요. 그게 처음 보여준 움직임이라기보다는 그 스프링 시즌 때 모습이 뭔가 돌아왔다, 좋은 움직임이 돌아왔다라는 느낌이거든요. 그 이유가 뭘까요?
이런저런 부담감이나 지고 있을 때 이제 그런 분위기, 그런 것들을 별로 이제 개의치 않고 그냥 재밌게 했던 것 같아요.
네. いろいろあれこれこうプレッシャーなんかもあったりしたんですけれども、であとはちょっと負けている雰囲気なんかもあったんですが、そういったことを気にせずに楽しくプレーしました。
なるほど。こう3週間の準備期間があったと思うんですが、何かこう力を入れてチームで取り組んだこととかあったら教えてください。
はい。네, 3주 동안 그 준비 기간이 있었을 텐데, 그 뭔가 팀 쪽에서 그 힘을 주었었던 부분이라든가 그런 게 있으면 알려주시겠어요?
그 팀적인 이제 연습 같은 거를 이제 계속하면서 단 한 명도 포기하지 않고 계속 끝까지 퍼포먼스 유지하면서 그 팬분들이나 이제 봐주시는 분들한테 이제 멋진 경기를 선사해 드리고자 한 명도 포기하지 않은 것이 이제 경기력을 보답받은 것 같아요.
네. チーム的な練習ももちろんずっと続けていまして、でその中でこうメンバーの、誰も一人も、諦めなかったっていうところがあると思います。でファンの皆さんに、いいところをお見せしようっていう気持ちでずっと諦めずに頑張ってきたことが、今日の結果につながったと思います。
なるほど、わかりました。ありがとうございます。
はい、それでは最後に続いての試合、バーニングコートの対戦に向けて意気込みの方お願いいたします。
그러면 마지막으로 그 다음 경기 그 버닝코어하고의 경기에 대한 각오를 부탁드립니다.
뭐 이기겠습니다라는 말밖에 할 수 없을 것 같아요.
네, 알겠습니다. 勝ちますという言葉しか言えないかなというふうに今思ってます。
なるほど。あとちょっと私の方から聞きそびれたことがあったんですけれども、そのメンバーチェンジを行ったじゃないですか。そのメンバーチェンジの影響っていうのは実際どうでしたか？
気になりますね。
아까 좀 물어보려다가 까먹었는데 이번에 멤버가 바뀐 게 있었잖아요. 그 부분에 대해서는 어떠세요?
이제 하이드가 계속 안 들어오고 우인 양을 원딜 썼다가 이제 막 실패를 했고 이제 미츠피라고 대요원 선수가 이제 들어와서 같이 해주고 있는데 그 부분에 대해서는 이제 살짝 미니 하이드 선수처럼 그냥 하이드 선수가 해주던 거를 해주긴 하지만 그 이상의 한국인 용병의 그것까지는 오늘의 시합에선 보였는데 그거에선 잘 없고 근데 일단은 어느 정도까지는 스프링 정도의 그 팀 5명의 움직임이 돌아온 거에 대해 만족하고 있습니다.
네. 그러니까 대현 선수가 아직 한국인 연병만큼은 못했지만 그래도라는 뜻이죠.
분위기가 비슷한데
네.
그 정도.
아, 네네네. 알겠습니다. ハイド選手がちょっと出られなくなって、ウイニャン選手を ADC に置いたんですけれども、それがちょっとなかなかうまくいかなくて、今日から Day1 選手ということになったんですけれども、Day1 選手がなんというかミニハイドのような役割をしてくれていましてですね、韓国人の助っ人選手の力まではいかないんですけれども、雰囲気をそういう風に作ってくれて、スプリングでできていた5人の動きっていうのが戻ってきたような気がします。
なるほど、わかりました。ありがとうございます。
ありがとうございました。それではアクシーズのホグレット選手に、ホグレット選手のインタビューでした。それでは次の試合までインターバルです。
ホグレットも寄せてタワーダイブを狙うか。シップ陣ライン前に出た場面、雷撃の嵐を使いながらのウェーブクリアだが裏からホグレットでファーストブラッドアクシズ。
これまず瀬戸アルティメットありますか？ミッドバンクできますよ。
ミッドレーンピーリアンフラッシュまだ上がっていない。ショーストッパー入った。カオストームを返す。フェイスブレーカーのダメージ入って、さあダメージヘイメーカーが届いたぞ。ホグレットミッドレーンでもキルを生んだ。
中盤のファイトのところで優位を作っていくと。
さあホグレットがショーストッパーエンティを対象。これは止めた。そのままアクシズガリアルが持っていきました。ただフランク非常に短期。さあ場面に入っていったのはホグレット。雷撃の嵐返すがショーストッパー。その先にウニャンが合わせていく。ヘイメーカーも決まってホグレットのキリングスプリー。さあミッドレーンに仕掛けに行くんですがスリーパブルがうまく当たった。さらには死の宣告。フックはガリアル自身を無敵にし回避。宇宙の法則でさらなるエンゲージも防ぎましたコーポラル。
オブジェクトに対してアプローチできますね。
さあスネアをホグレットに入れながら、ただエンティの体力がロー。さあ戦国ゲーミングバック TP からエンゲージ判断。運命の調律がただピリアンに当たっている。さあしかしアパメンが雷撃の嵐スリーマンスタント、いや4マンスタンにしている。さあスネアただ裏からやってきたゆとり林がまずはウイニャンを打ち取っています。ただ1位ストレートの状況か。デイワンもキルを返して、さあここからの中断。おっとかなりのダメージ。ガリアル一突き。ホグレットはどうやら逃げられそうですが、その間にミッドのインヒビタータワー、さらにはインヒビターの獲得までつながりそうです。
足のあるバードのアルティメットありますからまだ耐えられると思いますが、
いやこれゲームエンドまでいくか。戦国ゲーミングスネア入った。なるほどタワーを触らせないと。そしてホグレットが裏から回ってきてショーストッパーエンティフェイスブレーカー。おークリスタラロ、ここはゆとりましクレンズ。ヘイメーカーちょっとゆとりましが前に出たところ、デイワンが強気に前に出ていった。アクシズ4キル獲得。雷撃の嵐合わせるウイナーショーストッパーを打ち込んでアパメを遠ざけた。ネクサスタワーが2本割れる。残るはネクサスだ。アクシズ